my background academically is a lot of psychology and working community, and I always see that beating your kids is almost the only way you can have control over somebody. And I always think if they're children, they can't have any more control. They're the only people that you're responsible for as a parent. That's the only people you have control over, because you don't go beat around other adults.
You don't. You really don't.
Because you know they'll fight back.
Yeah.
But thinking about it in a way that you're beating them because they know they're defenseless is crazy to me. It's so insane.
Yeah.
But that creates trauma.
It does
Trauma
create
in
trauma.
people.
It does.
And now we're gonna go down in this aspect of trauma. I guess as a Christian, you've experienced a lot of trauma, and trauma is, I think, almost at the center of disturbing your mental health.
Yeah, it
And
does.
almost, I think, everybody who's lived and experienced life, they've some level of trauma, they've endured it, they've been through it, they've experienced, they've heard it.
That's true.
How do you heal from that? How do you heal from trauma? How do you even, I think sometimes it's almost too big to know, where do I even start? Like, everybody tells you to pray. Everybody tells you, you're a child of God. How do you even go and attack these things that you call trauma? How can you even start?
Yeah, it's really hard. It's really, really hard. If I can even take you back to the whole bidding things, we're creating patterns that even if I was to choose not to do that, but because this is what has been engraved in my brain, this is what I'm passing on to my kids as well. I'll give you an example of having to beat your kids or yell or do things. As much as I was maybe yelled at when I was a child, I can choose to say, well, I'll never do this to my kids. But because it's been engraved in my brain, it's there
Innate.
somewhere.
You can't
Every
even-
time you get
yeah.
triggered, this is what
First
comes
response.
in first in. So these patterns do not just stop here. It's generations to generations. And when it comes to healing, I'll speak for myself. For me, it came down to me really knowing that I had issues, mental health issues. And that was not a long time ago, I'll tell you that. It took me more than 25 years to actually realize, that is a problem that needs to be fixed.
That needs to be healed from, yeah.
As much as healing, I'd say I'm in the process of just, taking all these burdens off. But what has helped me a lot is, I know, praying about things obviously comes in handy, because we know a little prayer goes a long way, but also talking about these things. Being able to sit down and communicate how I really, really feel to those close to me, or even took me to go back, speak to my parent on how I felt, because sometimes all you need to do is just say, this is
Get
how
it
I
out.
feel, even if it takes. It happened 10 years ago. Maybe just saying, Mom, when you did this is how I felt. It takes away that wound that was in there. So some of these things I had to actually rewind and talk about. Thanks God, my parents were a bit understanding. I think growing up, now we can have these conversations, because I'm an adult now. So having to talk about these things, rewind and, communicate a bit more, setting boundaries, just communicate to people how I like things, how I feel about things. Then I'm not creating more patterns in the future. But also therapy. As I said, I know for sure tutabiombeya is the way to go. I understand being from a Christian setting, but also, as I said, mental health is just like another sickness to me. So I've been through some sessions. I've spoken to people. Spiritual counseling as well has helped me, but also just still in the process of healing. Yeah.
And I guess when you talk about the space of having to go back to your parents and speak to them, so if you don't have that chance, and you still have that wound in you, like you still feel the pain, because I feel like with these things, it never goes away.
It doesn't.
You kind of just learn how to deal with them, or you learn how to survive, or you learn you learn something out of it. What do you do then if you have?
I think in this
you can't talk to your parents.
Yeah, in this case, accountability comes in handy as well, because I believe it takes two. Them being ignorant and me not knowing what to do created this whole situation. I'm not excusing what happened, but also if we were to come down and actually think about the situation, maybe there's a way I could have done things better for the situation not to happen the way it did. But also, I remember I was speaking to a friend the other day, and we were talking about these same settings where I was telling them how I had to bring more wine and talk to my parents. And I've never used that example. Maybe this kid could be handy to someone else. She said what she does is she writes down, like she was writing a letter to her dad or to her mom, because, well, unlucky for her, they passed away. So she can't, there is no way she can have these conversations, because to her, she said she would write letters to her parents saying, this is how I feel. Just that, taking it out,
Releasing
like,
it.
this is how I felt. This is how I felt, mama. And not even coming in with, and I understand, not just let it out. This is how I felt. She wrote it down, put it in an envelope. I can't remember where she dropped it, but that actually helped her. That's what she said. But also, speaking to people more mature than you can give you another insight on how you would feel. As you said, sometimes we just need to survive and know how to deal with these feelings. But yeah, sometimes when you talk to people, you find more ways to deal with these kind of situations. So yes, speak to people, speak up. I feel like if I did have that basic mother and daughter strong bond relationship, things could have been different. Yeah, it could have been a bit different. But as I said, I'm not blaming her or myself. It's
So
yeah,
I have this almost theory that the way, anyways, I don't know, maybe I might have read it in a book somewhere.
Yeah.
But it was that the way your relationship that you have with your parents, and more specifically your father, shapes how you view God as a father. So if you had a good relationship with your father, it's so easy for you to relate to God, because in scripture, he's a male figure, a dad, a good friend, a dad, but mostly a father. So how you interact with your dad, that relationship really plays a big role in the way you view your dad. If you didn't have a good relationship with, if he was not trustworthy, all these things, it makes it so much harder for you to view God in that light. How do you feel about that?
First of all, I had a very good relationship with my dad. I think that's what took away the need for me to feel like I had to be close to my mother. I was very, very, well, till today, I'm very close to my father, very, very close. And growing up, I used to set my, I don't even know how to put the words. You know how a guy tries to date you? I used to think of it like, oh, will dad like him? Like everything goes around, will dad like
Your
this? Will dad be happy with
standards.
this? Yeah, so even when it comes to the other side of prayer, also understanding the whole family dynamic, I think my dad had a very big role to play. Well, as you said, the examples he was setting in the house, gave me that courage to actually, well, in the sense of trying to prove him that I can follow what he's trying to teach me, or I can meet a guy like him in that battle of trying to meet his expectation. I also found a way to be more connected spiritually to God, but also be having strong and healthy relationships when it comes to just romantic relationships in general. So I feel like that's a very important point. If I'm looking at to you, as in if I'm setting you as an example, I want to see those things that will make me feel like I have to follow what you're telling me. Like I have to prove you that I can actually do these things. That you can actually be proud of me. And that in that sense, I'm actually shaping myself into, becoming more closer to God and other.
So
yeah,
that's a very, very interesting conversation.
Yeah.
So in all this thing, I guess the bulk of it was that there is still grace for the afflicted being those who suffer from mental health issues, that there is still grace for them, and that there is, God knows.
He does.
God knows, definitely knows. And if we look in the Bible, Elijah, all these people, they've suffered from aspects of mental health, and God was there. So how do you feel about therapy?
Yes. Yes. I'm very passionate when it comes to these conversations. That I'm actually losing words. I feel like therapy is very important. Very, very important and crucial. It's something that needs to be taken with all seriousness. As I said, it's just seeking mental, medical, like you're going to seek medical attention. You're also seeking medical attention for your brain. And as I said at the beginning, your brain is the center of everything. Even biologically, this is where everything happens. So therapy is just, it's not to be neglected. It's something that even if we're praying about it, that should be considered. I've been there, and I've I can sense and feel the difference before and after. So I actually encourage people who are going through mental health to consider therapy. So I just feel like therapy is just like any other medical attention. So it needs to be taken with, high importance. Yeah.
So I guess to almost wrap this up, I have a question for you. And it's more so, if you could look back to your younger self who's going through something hard and they feel like, I'm praying about this, but I still feel what I'm going through, what would you tell her?
The younger me? Oh, wow. That's a very good question. Yes. I'd say maybe don't lose hope. There's always light at the end of the tunnel, but also don't keep this to yourself. Like even if you can't talk to your mom or your dad, there's always people who are able to help. Because I can only see how me not having that space to talk about things or just not being able to open up did create in me another rebel, a little rebel within me that felt like I had the need to fight all the time. I was triggered. I had the need to react and not being able to communicate really what I'm feeling, which was not solving the issues, but was actually cultivating these other things in me that I looking back, I wouldn't do if I knew better. So I'd say just keep praying, as we say. God is always there. Don't just keep these to yourself. If you can't talk to your close people, there's always people who can help if you were to take that step and talk to people. I was actually posting the other day on my social about trust issues, because we tend to think, oh, no one will believe me. I don't even trust people like that. Like, they'll be looking at me like, oh, so she's really going through that. The whole setting of the devil, what he does is he does not want you to feel like you don't trust people, or you can't trust people, or you just can't talk about these things. These are personal, like we say. This is personal, very personal. What he tries to do is he tries to take you out of that opportunity to open up and speak up, because he knows once you do that, that's where your healing is. So he tends to take away those opportunities by enforcing these trust issues, or not being able to love or be around people, because he does understand and knows the positivity about speaking up or talking to people. People heal from just speaking
Conversations.
up. Yeah, just conversations. So maybe it's not about trust issues. Maybe it's not about you not liking people or just being a loner. Maybe he doesn't want you to say anything, because he knows once you do,
You're healed.
you're healed. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Darashel. It was very lovely to have this conversation. And I guess to wrap this up, I will say that I feel like the highest form of love is to be seen and to be understood and to be heard.
True.
And I guess in this kind of conversation is to validate what you're feeling, to feel like you're seen, people hear what you're going through, and that people understand. You're not the only one. And like Darashel said, a conversation could be your healing. It could be the step forward to the right places.
True.
And somebody could even share a problem shared is a problem half solved already.
Exactly.
So thank you so much for tuning in. This again is Time with the Lord, a space where we speak about things, we go deep, and we dive into things that will strengthen and advance the kingdom of God. Again, thank you, Darashel, our guest, a lovely guest.
Thanks for
Rachel Nab,
having
you can
me.
find her on Instagram, social media.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, and we'll see you again on another segment of Time with the Lord.
Thank you.